So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto Got Harem with Hazbin Hotel, so let's start the series. The first thing that comes to mind when someone thinks of this place is a fiery pit filled with demons of all shapes torturing people for their own sick amusement. They would be right to think that, at least they would have been, because hell had changed over time and was no longer a place where sinners were tortured as it once was. Instead, it was a fairly large city with television, various industries all over it that catered to the weak-willed, and so much more that the sinners who lived there still did. It was not all sunshine and roses, though, as there was an annual purge during which all Helens went crazy and killed as many people as they could. The victims of this purge simply disappeared, there were no resurrections or anything like that. Their souls went to the void, which was nothing, and remained there until time itself stopped. The demon Lucifer, who was the first to descend into hell, was cast down for doubting God's word and suffered for eternity as a result. However, he was accompanied by a number of others who assisted him in running hell, each of whom took control of one of the 5 points that comprised the plane of existence. The members who took control of these locations changed over time due to frequent power struggles, but they largely failed to achieve their ultimate goal of usurping the section's leader. Although hell was quite large, it did have an end, and that end only looked out over a cliff that plunged into the void itself. In other words, hell was essentially a large floating island with a square cage underneath it that was sealed with numerous intricate seals to keep the occupant inside at all costs. Who was this individual whom Lucifer himself decided to enclose in this manner? It was just a young man who shouldn't have been sent here in the first place, but he was, and because of the circumstances he found himself in, he and Lucifer were a threat to hell itself. You see, in hell, a demon's power was fueled by the darkness of their heart, but this man was sent there with the power of light as well, which made his power far greater than most demons because it easily destroyed their own because none of them had ever faced an angel or anything like Lucifer himself since those who had perished in the battle that turned hell into the floating island it is today. His fear was well founded because, within minutes of his arrival, the newcomer had gone on a rampage that rivaled some of the most powerful demons in hell's history. In his wrath, he turned a fifth of hell into ash, and Lucifer, with the assistance of those in charge of the 5 sections, sealed him in the cage he still resides in today. The damage caused took hundreds of years for the demons to repair, and as a result, the man was known as the Light Demon. However, in the thousands of years that followed the young man's imprisonment, the Light Demon became more of a myth than anything else because those who knew about him perished before Lucifer even remembered him, and even then, the thought of him faded to the back of his mind because there was no way to escape the cage. Or this is what he believed, anyway. As he waited alone in that cage, the man had done nothing more than gather his thoughts and strength. He gave careful thought to what he wanted to do and, more importantly, how he was going to make amends for what had happened to him that had put him in this predicament in the first place. If there was one thing that he had learned, it was that Uzumaki was capable of doing the impossible. And Naruto Uzumaki was no different. From the moment of his birth, Naruto's life had never been good, and his father's actions set the stage for him to be permanently imprisoned in hell as he is now. On the night of his birth, a man wearing a mask attacked his mother as she gave birth, unleashing the demon known as the 9-tailed fox, or Kyubi for short, into the village of Konoha, where it ravaged and destroyed a great deal before Minato was able to seal it away in his own son. However, in order to do so, he had to sacrifice his own soul in order to call the Shinigami to perform the deed, and the cost was one soul. The village's powers started subtly manipulating the boy from the first night of his life in order to use him as a weapon. They intended to beat and mistreat the boy until he was submissive, while also instilling in him the desire to prove the people wrong about him and the ambition to become the village's leader, the Hokage. They were successful in their sick plan over the years, and Naruto was the reason the village prospered because he gained them many allies and trading agreements. As he did so, the higher-ups could only smirk because their plan was working and the boy had become their tool to use as they saw fit. However, these circumstances resulted in a new conflict, in which Naruto and his companion Sasuke battled and ultimately defeated the mother of all chakras, saving the elemental nations from annihilation, and Naruto was pleased. A year after the war ended, he was on the verge of marrying the love of his life, Hinata Hyuga, in a lavish wedding that all of the most powerful people in the world had come to witness. Naruto had saved their lives, and they were all delighted to be there for him on this special day. He was smiling as he said, "I do," with his friend Koyuki the spring daimyo performing the ceremony. However, as soon as he said those words, everything went to hell, both literally and figuratively. It turned out that everything had been prearranged from the beginning, and that Hinata had concealed a knife in the flowers she held for the ceremony. The knife was dipped in a poison that prevented the demon that was sealed inside of him from healing, and with a sinister smile on her face, she pulled it out and stabbed him through the heart. Naruto had fallen to his knees in agony as the poison slowly spread to all of his vital organs and started to kill him, but as he died slowly, he had to watch the shinobi that Konoha had hidden away for this very moment. He was powerless to stop them as his body died and his vision faded, and the next thing he knew he was sinking into the depths of hell itself. He was sent here because, once he was killed, the seal that held the Kyuubi within him sealed their souls together, allowing him to do what he did. He was a pure soul, much more worthy of ascending into the plains of heaven itself, but the demon sealed within him pulled him down into the depths. This had never happened before. Lucifer had built the cage in which he was imprisoned in an attempt to extinguish the light within him so that he would no longer pose a threat. It accomplished this by revealing to him the details of his life as if he were a third-party observer, forcing him to realize that his entire existence had been a lie for thousands of years. If he had lived to see another day, he would never have seen Naruto as his son. He saw his father as he sealed the devil inside him so that the village would have a weapon to employ. Since they had a long-standing agreement that if she gave Naruto the weapon he wanted, she could leave the village because she was only needed to contain the demon. So she gave birth to him in order to transfer the burden she was cursed with to him before leaving to live a new life with another family into old age. His own mother, Kushina Uzumaki, had survived that day. The Sandaime himself, the clan leaders, and the villagers planned out all of the mistreatment he endured in order to control him as they had throughout his life. Since the toads had reverse summoned him for medical treatment, he did not die that day, and Jiraiya, his teacher who he believed had died in Aime's battle with Pain, was in charge of creating the seals. The only reason Hinata Hyuga, the woman he loved deeply, accepted his proposal and put on all the fake shyness was because her father had told her to do so that the Hyuga would eventually have the legal right to take the enormous wealth of the Uzumaki clan for themselves. And this was only the beginning since he was shown so much more. Lucifer would have typically given him fictitious incidents to try to accomplish what he was doing now, but after researching the boy's past, he thought it was amusing to reveal the truth because it was far worse. But in the midst of all the chaos in his life, he discovered one truth: Sasuke Uchiha, the traitor of Konoha, was his true friend. He had attempted to exact revenge on Naruto at the wedding soon after the massacre, but he was unable to do so because of his anger and hatred, which prevented him from thinking clearly, and he ultimately died too. Instead of letting the rage consume him as Lucifer had hoped, he strengthened his drive to find a way to fix everything and live a true life worth living that those in Konoha would never have allowed him to live. This drive kept the light within him strong and growing as he sought justice for what had been done to him, but the darkness grew hand in hand with the light because he was still demonic as he was now. The plan to destroy the light within him did not work because it was intended to break the boy's mind until the darkness consumed him and turn him into a full-fledged demon instead of the abomination that he was now. Naruto was not an exception to the rule that when a soul entered hell, their body changed into a more demonic form. He had assumed the appearance of a white kitsune with 9 tails, and because of their size, he was able to retract his black-tipped tails so they wouldn't impede his movement in any way. His eyes, which had once been angelic blue, were now a mixture of 2 colors. His left eye was black with a white ring, and his right eye was white with a black ring. The cage had been hanging from several chains that were attached to the island of hell, and he would have fallen into the void, but the light he possessed gave him a pair of wings that he used to fly back up to the island itself. After so many years of captivity, he finally had enough strength to escape his cage, and in a huge power surge, he blew it up. There were demons everywhere when he used the power to break free, and Lucifer was the one who feared it the most because he knew exactly who had that kind of power to command as his own. He summoned the strongest demons to help him because he would need time to reseal the man in another cage, this one more powerful than the last. He expected Naruto to attack him in his palace out of rage at having been sealed for so long, but in reality, there was no attack from him at all. Lucifer sent men out to find him, but they were unable to locate him no matter how hard they searched, which shocked him. Lucifer started to suspect that the boy might have fallen into the void, and as the weeks went by, he began to suspect that possibility. Naruto had done nothing of the sort. He had just used his illusionary abilities to pass for someone else and walked to his destination. Near the center of hell, a demon known as the Record Keeper lived in a huge library that contained books that represented the people who had lived there in the past and present. Naruto noticed that the building was enormous because the magic that created it made the inside of it much larger than the outside, so he made as many clones as he could, roughly 1,000, and started looking for the names of the people he sought justice against. He reasoned that their actions toward him would have earned them a trip to hell, and he wanted to be certain so that he could personally eliminate them himself if they were still alive. For the next few hundred years, he lived here because his life was eternal unless he was killed, and there were countless books to read. However, even though there were a lot of them, there was a limit, so he eventually finished reading them all. He felt angry because almost no one he knew from the village had been sent here, which meant that they somehow found redemption in their actions to ascend while he was forced downward. This would not stay in his mind, but even though he wanted to pursue them, the fact that he was in hell prevented him from doing so. For the first time in years, he left the library and wondered what he would do next. Then he saw the news article about Lucifer's daughter Charlie talking about a hotel she was starting to help demons find redemption. The majority of the demons laughed as she shared her idea and sang a song that Naruto had to admit was pretty well written. He smirked because he now knew what he had to do, and he located the hotel she mentioned and started his redemption. Charlie didn't know who he was because he didn't identify himself as the light demon that Lucifer had told her stories about years ago. The news had come to interview her in order to insult her on live television, but Naruto was there to assist her with the press, and because the feed was live, Lucifer saw him there. The man immediately came to the hotel and caused trouble by trying to seal Naruto away again in the new cage he had constructed, but Naruto refused to be sealed up like some sort of animal. She only found out who he was when people realized that her plan was working with himself and several other demons that arrived in time. A massive fight ensued, with all of hell watching the two of them going at it. It was as Lucifer feared, with Naruto having the power to rival himself and tried to force him into the cage, yet Naruto used his power to destroy it as he glared at the demon who tried to put him back in it. Yet the power he needed to use to destroy it drained him, and Lucifer capitalized on this and fired a massive blast meant to kill him. Yet Naruto had years of fighting experience under his belt that his demonic power only amplified, so that his instincts were far greater than before. But it was as he dodged the massive attack sent his way that he saw that it would hit Charlie and her girlfriend Vaggie instead. Naruto used all his power to speed up and throw them out the path of the attack, and used what little power he had left to shield himself from the attack. Yet it wasn't enough and he suffered massive damage from it. He lost both his legs and an arm as he bled out on the ground, but he was not sad as he bled out into the ground. His blood caused the ground around him to bloom with grass and flowers instead of the literal hellish landscape it usually was. As she cried over his dying body, Charlie thanked him for saving her life, and as her tear struck his body, he started to glow. Those who saw this turned away because the glow was so bright. An ray of light fell upon him, lifting him out of hell itself. Naruto thanked her for her help and started to soar through the heavens, while the demons watched in disbelief because none of them thought the hotel could help people find redemption like this. When Naruto flew into the heavens, he entered through the golden gates and started his plan to seek justice as he had desired from the beginning. Darkness was in heaven, just as the power of light was in hell. He searched and discovered that there was a library here that was similar to the one in hell, but the main difference was that heaven was constantly growing to accommodate the souls that entered here, while hell had to purge so many to make room for them. He then proceeded to the library once more, this time using his power to create clones in order to find the people he sought justice against. His demonic body had returned to his appearance after he had died. Once more, it took him several hundred years to find the people he was looking for, but he had all of eternity to do so because the way the afterlife worked was not affected by changes in the scenery. He eventually found the people he was looking for and hunted them down one by one, remembering the expressions on their faces when he used his power over darkness to smite them down. However, as he killed more of them, a new problem arose inside of him. It seemed that the more he killed, the more the darkness within him grew stronger than the light, and his vision became more corrupted. Ultimately, he succeeded in his endeavors, but it almost cost him all of his light. Only after he had completed his work and his justice had been served did he finally regain complete control of his mind. He meditated to regain his power, and as he did so, word finally reached God himself that this was all happening in the first place, so he followed Lucifer's instructions and attempted to find a way to seal Naruto away so that he wouldn't be a threat to anyone else. However, Naruto attacked him because he didn't want this to happen. Everyone who witnessed this assumed the boy was insane for attacking the Lord of Creation, and perhaps he was. But Naruto wanted a simple life, and this so-called creator had done nothing to help him during his youth. Against all odds, Naruto gained the upper hand and stood over the battered body of God. The more damage he sustained, the more the heavens began to rip. A deal was made after Naruto held up his hand and revealed an orb of power that pulsed with both light and dark, making it gray and far more destructive than should be physically possible. Naruto demanded that God fix what he had allowed to happen, and God looked at him with genuine fear because he saw a man who would willingly destroy everything out of sheer anger for the actions he had endured in the past. He only gave in and listened because creation itself was in danger. The deal was sealed with a shake of the hands, and a portal opened for Naruto to pass through. Naruto stopped just short of entering it and looked back to say one thing. Naruto would be sent back, with only a small fraction of his power over light and darkness. He would return to his younger body at the age of 6, and the Kyuubi would be removed from his body and set free in hell to live out the rest of eternity so that Naruto was not sent to hell for unjust reasons again. For what it's worth, I'm sorry that things went this way. Naruto was then given a second chance at life. As promised, Naruto was returned to his 6-year-old body with a significant amount of his future power. He laughed as he experienced this because, in all honesty, he had expected God to deceive him and deny him anything. However, it appeared that he was an entity of his word and felt that Kyuubi was no longer inside him. Instead, he was in an ally because he had just been ambushed and beaten by the villagers before returning to inhabit his former self. He was at Jonin level strength right now, and he knew that as his body grew, so would his power. He may have the body of a 6-year-old, but his mind was far more intelligent than most people because he understood so much more than they could possibly do. He quickly assessed his abilities, of course within reason, since too much would bring all the shinobi in this cursed village upon his person, and he was not yet ready for that. He planned how to make things better knowing what was coming. He vowed to never let his friends die again so that this fucking village could rule supremely the way they wanted to, so he used his power to completely cover his scent so that the Inuzuka could not follow him as he knew they would. He was going to make the first wise choice of many in this new timeline and leave this village so that he could return to destroy it one day. His first stop was his father's house. Since no one was watching him at the moment and those in charge of doing so deliberately chose not to do so, he entered the building with ease. However, what could a 6-year-old child do? Although Minato would never have allowed him to enter this house if given the chance, Naruto could only smirk about that fact. He entered the man's study and saw numerous plans that Minato had for him if he had lived to see Naruto become the village weapon, and somehow it was much worse than what he had already gone through once. He was unable to flee because he would be easily discovered by skilled trackers, so because of their extreme negligence, he was able to enter the house unharmed because he had the man's blood flowing through him and was able to activate the seal to unlock the door. In order to improve his chances of escaping the village, he found the various scrolls that contained the jutsu for which his father had gained notoriety and packed them up in a sealing scroll along with all the notes about plans Minato had made before he passed away. He then proceeded to the kitchen, opened the gas stove, and turned it on full so that the gas began to leak out. He then found a candle and lit it, placing it a few rooms away. After setting it, he left the house and returned to his own apartment, leaving a simple note for someone to find when they eventually thought to come and find him soon. "Fuck you, you old jerk who calls himself a Hokage and lies," to let Hiruzen know that he was aware of the truth and would no longer put up with the lies, he made care to sign the note with his full name. With the Namikaze home catching fire and numerous people attempting to extinguish it, the plan proceeded smoothly. Naruto once again covered his scent and left the village to find a new home in order to regain his strength. However, he was unsure of exactly where he could hide out to do so. He would go to one of his old friends, but at this point they were not his friends because the way he befriended them had not yet occurred. It was then that he thought of the ideal location to do so. The old saying went, "The enemy of my enemy is my friend," and Konoha had a major one right now, and his name was Orochimaru, using his powers and the knowledge from the past. He found where the man was hiding and told the shinobi who were hidden amongst the populace that he sought Orochimaru. The man greeted him personally since he was curious as to why Naruto had sought him out like this. Naruto simply laughed and told him that he knew that Orochimaru was planning on invading Konoha. This shocked yet pissed off the man who ordered his shinobi to kill the brat. Naruto easily killed the few shinobi there who attacked him and then rushed forward and slammed Orochimaru into the ground via his head. As he did this, he pumped his memories of what happened in the failed invasion. Orochimaru was shocked to see all this, and was then open to listening to the boy. He demanded to know how Naruto could know all this in the first place, but Naruto simply told him that he had his means that he would not divulge. Orochimaru had a hunch that he would not get anything from the kid, so he just let it go, for now at least. Since all he wanted was a place to hide from the people who would be hunting him, Naruto offered him a sort of alliance. Orochimaru gave him the directions to an abandoned underground village that he no longer used, and in exchange for keeping his whereabouts a secret, Naruto agreed to help him in the invasion when it happened. Naruto then left for his new home, using shadow clones to help rebuild the place into a training area with magical seals to hide his presence and seal off the entrance so that only he could enter. In the unlikely event that Orochimaru turned on him, Jiraiya, who he knew would be the main person searching for him, would not be able to break these seals because, despite his proficiency with seals, he did not have access to magic like Naruto did. He used his clones to hunt for food while he trained himself to become stronger. He even found 2 different animals that he raised from an early age to become his familiars so that he would know what was going on in the world while he waited, a raven whose wing was broken that he helped fix, and a wolf pup whose mother was killed by a hunter. These became his friends because, to be honest, he was lonely and the company was welcome. With the power to see through their eyes, he saw the world as events he had only heard about unfolded. By doing so, he saw as the Sandaime was slowly going mad with rage that Naruto had left the village. He was only mad about that at first since he thought that they would be able to find him and bring him back by now, yet no one could find him. The matter was only worse when the Namake's house burned down. Even with their attempts to stop it, the seals protecting the place were advanced, so there was nothing that could be done to stop it. It was only after the fire destroyed pretty much everything were they able to enter, since the seals were destroyed as well. It was then that they found out that it was a gas leak fire that destroyed the house, which confused most of the people since no one was able to get inside the house since the only person capable of doing so was Minato. But Hiruzen knew differently, and he had lost all the color in his face as he knew who did this. His fears were proven correct when he finally went to Naruto's crappy apartment and saw the note left for him that Naruto signed with his full name. Hiruzen called back Jiraiya and had a meeting between him and the members that made up the Shinobi Council as well as the clan heads. They were told the truth on the matter, which pissed them off since Naruto was never supposed to know the truth about his heritage, and were given orders to try and find him while out on missions. Naruto grew stronger in his home as they failed to follow orders to find him, but while he remained there, he also considered how else he could improve the future now that he knew the truth. It was then that he recalled other people who had so much potential but had passed away too soon. He grinned because he would make sure they survived this time. He used shadow clones to visit each member of the Sound Village one at a time and persuade them to join him. Some were more difficult to persuade, but he was able to do so because of his persuasive tactics. Despite being thousands of years old and carrying a wealth of knowledge and experience in his youthful body, he still had it. For the first time in years, Naruto left his home when he was 12 years old. His power had increased beyond Kage level, as he had anticipated, and he now knew what he needed to do because he had so much time to prepare while he waited for this moment. He had made his own clothes out of the materials left over from the clothes that had been left here when this place was abandoned. His clothing consisted of a coat, similar to what the Akatsuki members wore, but without the clouds. It was black on one side, just like Zetsu's skin. He did not wear a hat, only a blank mask to cover his face and a hood to cover his head. Finding his mother, who had purchased a nice home in Demon Country, was the first ripple in the timeline. She had been dating a nice man and was hoping that he would soon pop the question so that she could start a new, happy family life. She was happy right now, and nothing could change that, but as she returned home from the grocery store with the groceries to prepare the anniversary dinner that her boyfriend had asked her to make for them because he had a surprise for her, Naruto had already entered the house and dealt with the man directly. He had done nothing to him personally, so his death was quick and painless because he did not torture him. Kushina called out to her boyfriend when she got home, but he didn't answer. She decided to ignore it, thinking he might have gone out to get something at the last minute, but her thoughts were replaced with fear when she noticed her boyfriend's head on the table with a "Happy Anniversary" card in front of it. Kushina hurried into the room, but that was exactly what Naruto wanted because as soon as she did, the seals he had put in place all activated, locking the doors leading into the dining room. Kushina used her chakra chains to try to bind him, but they failed because Naruto grabbed them and pulsed his power through them, shattering them into a million pieces as he did. This greatly weakened Kushina, and it was at that moment that Naruto fully knew the one thing he wanted to say to her as he pulled off his mask and hood so she could see his face. Kushina was terrified to see someone leaning against the wall and demanded to know who he was, and she felt unprepared for this because all of her shinobi gear was in her room. "Mother, burn in hell." He knocked her unconscious with those words. He intended to kill her, but he had a plan for her, so he seized her and walled her up, putting her in magical stasis so she would stay asleep and not die while imprisoned. The next event he set right was in Wave Country. He remembered Inari speaking about a man named Kaisa's death being what made him into the grumpy kid he was when they first met during the mission that he and his team had been sent on, so Naruto decided to kill two birds with one stone here, or actually three if he thought about it. He made his way on the day that the man was meant to be executed and save Kaisa's life by killing Gato as well as his men, with those remaining fleeing in terror to the boat they had used to get here in the first place to abandon the island country. The people were grateful for his help and asked for the name of their savior, which he gave them his first name only. He remained with the village for the next few months to help them build the bride that they had begun to work on, and once completed they named it the Great Naruto Bridge as they had done so in the past. With all that done, he left the village as they all cheered for him and called out for him to have good luck. In this way, Inari had a happier childhood, Tsunami had a man in her life to love, Tazuna would not become too inebriated to handle things, and most importantly, they would not feel the need to honor him by making a trade agreement with Konoha. Naruto could only smile as he left the country via the bridge he had helped build because the people had been his friends the first time around and things were better this time around because they never had to endure the tyrannical rule of Gato like they had before he returned. When this was finished and he got home, he was met by Orochimaru himself, who could only enter the place because his seals were only active while he was there because there was no need for them while he was away. The man informed him that his portion of the deal was about to happen, and Naruto simply nodded that he would follow through because he was a man of his word. Orochimaru left with a smile on his face because his plans were all coming together, and he would capture the boy and transform him into the ideal vessel for him to live in after his invasion destroyed Konoha. Naruto accompanied Orochimaru when he met Raza, Suna's Kage. Naruto knew that Orochimaru had killed the man the first time around and had used his clothes to infiltrate the village and keep Suna fighting alongside his own forces. Knowing that many of the events in the Fourth Shinobi War would be negated if he died, Naruto killed Orochimaru by burning him from the inside out using his light magic and kabuto. Raza was shocked to see this young man save his life and was appreciative. Naruto explained to Raza that he had been planning to kill Orochimaru for a while, but that now seemed like the best time to do it. With that, he asked only to borrow Raza's clothes, just like Orochimaru was going to do, and that he used the power of illusions to conceal his identity. When the invasion began, the Sound Four took their places to seal him and the Sandaime into the area as Orochimaru had done the first time. However, while Hiruzen was prepared to fight Orochimaru, Naruto dropped the illusion and glared at the man who had led his misery throughout his childhood. The rest of the plan proceeded as usual the first time, with Naruto replacing Orochimaru, whose death caused his curse seals to vanish from the people he put them on. It would be an understatement to say that Hiruzen was shocked because he never would have anticipated this. Naruto spoke with the man for a while, explaining that his former student had died at his hands and that he had become the Kage of Sound Village. He then told Hiruzen that he knew exactly what the old man had planned to do to him in order to force him into submission and that he would make him pay for it. However, before the fight began, Naruto used the Edo Tensei to summon a coffin containing his mother as a sacrifice to summon Minato himself, so that he would be forced to see that his plans had failed and that the village he loved had been attacked as it was. The seal he jabbed into the back of the man's head was not meant to force him to fight, but rather to watch helplessly. Hiruzen even used his summon in its staff form to attack Naruto, but Naruto yanked his weapon out of his hands and broke it in half. The summon then changed back into its true form, and Naruto ended the poor creature's misery by using his power of darkness to eliminate it. Hiruzen was shocked because he had never seen someone with such power before, and it was even more shocking to see that Naruto had it when his own parents did not. He then used his light magic to form a glowing tree, then used his darkness to form a noose around the old Hokage's neck and yanked it hard enough to lift the old man into the air. Hiruzen clawed the noose in vain because he was unable to break free and ultimately died the death he deserved, the one handed to a traitor. When he was dead, he turned to Minato, who was only able to glare and grunt because the seal prevented him from speaking. Naruto laughed at him and told him that he would not allow Konoha to win the way they had in the past. This surprised Minato because, unlike Orochimaru, he showed him everything. To say that Minato was shocked would be an understatement. As a form of poetic justice, Naruto killed the man by pumping him full of darkness, which was considered demonic energy, so that, like Naruto, he would be dragged down into the depths of hell to suffer for all eternity. Additionally, unlike Naruto, there was no light within his soul because he was more than deserving of being sent there. After achieving his objective, he gave the order for his people to flee, which they did. Naruto then waved his Sound Four, who broke down the barrier and departed the area as directed. The people of Sound were already aware of Orochimaru's death and had accepted it wholeheartedly because they believed Naruto was a better leader. He wanted the people to become stronger and pretended that they were friends rather than servants to test his theories on. Jiraiya himself then appeared a minute after they had left, accompanied by a number of ANBU members. Since the seal broke and the body returned to the one sacrificed to use the jutsu in the first place after Minato died, Naruto simply laughed at the man's rage and told him that this was just the beginning of the end for this village. Naruto would laugh as everyone who had caused him pain as a child screamed in agony as he brought their destruction upon them. With that said, his shadow clone disappeared. As the Kage of Sound, Naruto took it easy for a few months. He trained his shinobi to get stronger and traveled to Snow Country with his personal bodyguard, Kimimaro, to defend his longtime friend Koyuki, just like he had done before. The man had been close to death from a severe case of tuberculosis, which Orochimaru was unable to treat, but Naruto was able to cure. The difference between light and dark magic is that light magic was creation itself, which meant it could heal and conjure various constructs. Those in heaven had abandoned their violent ways for eternally simple pleasures, so they did not use the powers that came with it to fight like Naruto did. Darkness, on the other hand, was destruction incarnate because demons only ever hurt people for their own sick purposes, or at least that was the case in the past because hell was very different from what it is today. With just the two of them, they shielded Koyuki from her despotic uncle. They were merciless to the snow shinobi who opposed them, and in the end, Naruto destroyed the airship Dodo attempted to flee on when Kimimaro prevented her from being abducted. After he died, the snow-melting machine was turned on, and the area was dubbed Spring Country. With their assistance, Koyuki was able to take her rightful place on the throne as daimyo, and Sound Village and her nation formed an alliance and a trading agreement. As all of this was going on, Jiraiya went to find his only surviving teammate, Tsunade, and informed her that Naruto had killed Hiruzen. She was shocked because she had heard about the plan for him, but she couldn't understand why he had gained such power, so she decided to return and take Hiruzen's place as Hokage. Once she was in her new position of authority, she planned to attack Sound in order to get to Naruto and bring him back to enslave him once more using seals that Jiraiya had made. However, those plans were halted because their village had been severely damaged by the invasion, which made her realize that this was what Naruto had wanted in the first place. Konoha wouldn't be able to mount a proper offense for a year or two at this rate, and Tsunade detested that the brat, who should have been so weak, had done this to her grandfather's village. As she tried to bring Konoha back to its full strength, Naruto had made alliances with Spring, as well as Suna. The plan was easy, with Naruto killing Raza since the man was abusing Gaara, his best friend from the past, and as such Gaara became the new Kage of the place. He had saved Orochimaru's head so that he could help Suna in full with their greedy daimyo who had weakened them by sending his missions to Konoha instead. He used his illusions to take Orochimaru's form once more and assassinated the man with his own samurai witnessing this. Then he gave Gaara the head of the man to bring the new one as a sign that he avenged the former one. This made the new daimyo see the worth of Suna and sent missions to Suna. Their villages made an alliance with each other, with Naruto starting up their renewed friendship by expelling the soul of the demon within him in a manner that he still had all the power he had before, but no longer was it speaking to him and causing him to lose sleep as he delved into madness. Now that their alliance was firmly established, Tsunade and the rest of Konoha realized that their chances of killing the brat were decreasing, so they needed to come up with a novel solution. To avoid being held accountable, they hired a team of assassins to infiltrate and kill him. This was a clever plan in action, but they made a mistake. They dispatched Haku and Zabuza. Since Naruto was familiar with them and their fighting style from their first encounter in Wave to their resurrection to fight in the Fourth Shinobi War, they posed no threat to him. He defeated them alone and beat them to submission, but he chose not to kill them because he did not want to. Instead, he offered them a chance to join his village, which they accepted because they were fed up with escaping Hunter Nin and the like. As a result, they stayed in his forces for a while, and Konoha was furious that their assassination plan did not turn out the way they had hoped. Mei Terumi, the leader of the resistance fighting against those attempting to eradicate those born with a bloodline in Kiri, received a message from Naruto via his raven. With the help of his troops and Sunas, the rebellion was able to take control of the village and kill Yagura. Mei became the new Mizukage of Kiri and joined forces with Sound and Suna. Their alliance only grew stronger when Naruto asked the other two villages to assist him in starting to dig up Whirlpool, the land of his ancestors the Uzumaki, for its resources. Naruto was one of only 3 Uzumaki members still alive, with Karen being a part of Sound, leaving Nagato as the only Akatsuki leader. With the resources from there, Kiri was able to pull itself together again in a matter of months, which only infuriated Konoha even more because the more people he allied with, the more likely it would be that they would have to kill him. As a result, they once more tried a different strategy that would work for them in the long run. They used Jiraiya's spy network to give IWA the information about Naruto's parentage. As expected, they sent Hunter Nin and Anbu to kill Naruto because he was his son. However, Naruto was aware of this because he had a vast spy network with the help of his familiars because they could communicate with animals and learn far more than any human could. Therefore, with the help of his Sound 4 and Kimimaro, he confronted the group sent to kill him head-on. They set up a barrier to keep the IWA shinobi there, and Naruto beat them all into submission and sealed them away, sealing them all away like he had his mother. He then went to IWA to put an end to all of this nonsense once and for all. When he arrived, he was greeted with a great deal of rage and hatred from the populace because he was Minato's son. Anoki was there to deal with him directly, accusing him of killing his shinobi. Naruto just laughed and opened the men's seals to demonstrate that they were okay, beaten up but still alive. This surprised Anoki since he had thought Naruto would kill his shinobi. Naruto told him that he was not here to kill them or even attack them, he had simply come to set things right between them. In the future the two of them became friendly after they fought together in the 4th Shinobi War and he wanted that once again now. So he tossed Anoki the scroll containing all the notes that Minato had made with the plans he had for Naruto. The elderly Kage had read them as well as showed those who wished to see and actually looked at the boy with genuine sympathy since the boy had suffered so much and would have continued to if he had not done what he did. Naruto then offered a token of peace and handed him the scrolls containing the Rasengan as well as the Hirishin Jutsu. This was surprising to those in attendance that the boy would give up his inheritance like this. Yet Naruto explained that he wanted nothing to do with the man who had conceived him to do the things that he had written about in his notes. He even went so far as to renounce the Namake's name since he was not his father. So an alliance was made between them as well. They tried to convince Kyumo to attack Naruto by spreading a false rumor that Naruto was planning to attack and kill their Kage and steal their Jinchuriki, but once again, Naruto found out and met the man in person before he chose to send his own shinobi to attack Naruto. Konoha had not learned from the previous 2 attempts and went all or nothing with this latest plan. As all of this was going on, Sasuke Uchiha had been approached by his Sound 4 as before to offer him power if he accompanied them, and just like the last time, Tsunade sent the same people as a retrieval team. However, this time, Naruto gave clear instructions to kill everyone who came to bring Sasuke back. He told them about all the clan heirs who would be attempting to retrieve Sasuke, and the combination of that information and the intense training they had received over the previous few months made it impossible for the retrieval squad to succeed. Shikamaru, Niji, Choji, Kiba, and Shino were all killed in their attempt to do so, along with Lee, who came as a backup after he had recovered from the damage Gaara had done to him during the Chunin exam. This time, the main difference was that, although Lee was present to support them, Gaara and his siblings were different from the last time, so the Konoha shinobi lacked the necessary tools to defeat the Sound Four. Kagura faced Lee, but Naruto warned him not to let Lee drink the sake he had on him because, as an experienced fighter in the style of the Drunken Fist, he was able to throw a bone shuriken that broke the bottle Lee had on him. Lee had no chance against a healthy Kimimaro at his best, and he died by impalement from sharpened bones through vital organs. Those who died were ordered to bring him their heads, and they were curious as to why he wanted them, but they didn't want to ask directly. After Sasuke was successfully retrieved by his shinobi, Naruto proceeded to Kyumo and infiltrated it to the point where he reached the Raikage office without raising any alarms because he wasn't there to attack them. Once there, he made himself known, and they attacked him as he had anticipated because he had sneaked in, which usually meant an assassination attempt, so it was understandable. Naruto attempted to calm the man down by dodging instead of attacking, but he was more irate than he appeared and was not one to be easily calmed. Ultimately, Naruto had to bind him with several ropes made by darkness. Once he was bound, Naruto started talking to the man, fully stating that he was not going to attack him, despite Konoha's assurance that he would. He had come to simply make peace with Kyumo and offer him the opportunity to form an alliance with him and the other villages that were involved. I had laughed at his offer, but he told Naruto that they would talk if he unbound him, and to his surprise, Naruto listened and did just that. When he was unbound, he started talking because he believed Naruto when he said he was not here to attack him. As a result, he agreed to the alliance, but he demanded one thing in exchange, a main branch Hyuga to breed more from, as the last time they had one, he had the cage bird seal and was killed when he arrived. Naruto merely grinned as he made the request because he knew that A would do just that and he had come prepared for it. He then stunned A by revealing Hinata Hyuga's knocked-out body to him. They had attempted to kidnap her years prior, but were unsuccessful, so it was unexpected to see her being offered up in this manner. During the Chunin exam, Naruto had Kimimaro kidnap her during the invasion of Konoha, but he had to make it appear as though she had died so that no one would search for her. Kimimaro succeeded in doing so by using a few dead bodies that he had preserved and sealed, as well as a strategically placed explosive kunai that destroyed the building where Hinata's teammates witnessed her enter and the body that was too charred to identify later. Since the lying bitch had literally and figuratively stabbed him in the heart with the knife she concealed to carry out the deed, Naruto did this on purpose in order to break everything else she owned and force her to give birth to another bastard child. A accepted the gift and consented to the alliance because Naruto had given him exactly what he had desired. The heads of the clan heirs were sent back with a note mocking Tsunade for sending children to fight her battles, and they all paid the price for her decision. Shortly after, Tsunade was forced to resign from her position as Hokage after losing so many clan heirs at once with her order, and Danzo was nominated to take her place. Konoha had genuinely thought that Naruto was going to use them as the means to attack them, but no such attack materialized. The War Hawk would never acknowledge that his actions over the years had caused Konoha problems in the past. That wasn't how he saw things. Since then, Konoha had been anything but a bright light in a rather dark yet brightening shinobi world thanks to Naruto's intervention with various events. In fact, the opposite was true. While other places shone with light, Konoha grew darker with each passing day, and Danzo started causing more problems for the world than he would ever be willing to admit. Regretfully, Danzo believed that everything that was not a part of Konoha was an enemy, more specifically, his enemy, of the village and should be destroyed or sold into slavery. After he was formally appointed Hokage, Danzo ordered that root be brought back and that 1/3 of all the most promising clans be sent to the root program to receive proper conditioning, so they could become the village's elite shinobi. Although the clan heads initially opposed this, they had no choice but to do so because their strength was waning. Naruto was in a position to use all of his allies to attack Konoha, but he decided against it because, although he detested the village and everything it had done to him and his friends in the darker future he had so far prevented, he was not a warmongering tyrant like Danzo or the like, and his main motivation for returning was to live a life that was worth living. He had spent thousands of years imprisoned in a cage, nearly 2,000 more years trying to bring justice to those who had made his life miserable before killing him and sending him to actual hell. Not to mention the 3 different women he was dating, Kin, Tatsuya, and Koyuki herself, who loved him for who he was with all their hearts as he did them. He had achieved his goal and would deal with Konoha only as they challenged him this time around. He had the life he wanted with the friends he could truly trust around him, a team that he would not only sacrifice his life to protect, but they would do the same for him. When Sasuke was brought to the village, Naruto was there. Before the Uchiha could say a single word, Naruto used his power to show his memories of the 2 of them. They rekindled their friendship, which was almost brotherly before his unexpected end. Sasuke trained to become stronger the right way so that one day he could kill Itachi and avenge his clan once and for all. During the few years he was in sound training, Naruto introduced him to the group he worked with in the darker future to train with, and they eventually succeeded. Just like the last time, Sasuke was told the truth about the failed Uchiha rebellion and that he had been ordered to kill his own family, so he vowed to exact revenge on the village and put in more effort for the day he would have the opportunity. Years later, the Akatsuki made their moves, but Naruto and his shinobi defeated each attempt to capture the Jinchuriki by using shinobi who could counter their advantages. As a result, one by one, they were all defeated, leaving only Pain and Naruto. Pain decided to attack Naruto, but Naruto easily destroyed all 6 of his paths because, although they were very difficult to kill with chakra, they lacked the defense against magic like he did. He then discovered Pain's true body, which was protected by Konan, and offered him the opportunity to join him in order to help restore the Uzumaki name to its former glory. However, before Nagato could respond, Tobi appeared and tore out his eyes, and Konan joined Naruto because, deep down, she genuinely believed that Nagato himself would have done so if not killed in that way. It started with a large group of white Zetsu attacking them in the spring because they were thought to be the weak link in the alliance because they lacked a proper shinobi village to defend themselves. However, with the help of some much-needed reinforcements, they survived the attack, though they suffered heavy losses. All 6 Kages were then invited to a Kage summit, where Naruto was recognized as the Kage of the 6th main shinobi village. While there, he told them about the white Zetsu, their strengths, and their weaknesses. Once a battle plan was created, Danzo became enraged because he wanted to be in charge of the alliance, and Naruto was chosen instead. This time, Madara was summoned up and caused major casualties, just as he had the first time, but Naruto cut him off short and destroyed his body to the point where not even ashes remained. With him dead, Obito was found and executed for his crimes, and the elemental countries were at peace. They prepared for the war, which took 2 days to finish, and while the casualties had been far higher in the other timeline, Kabuto was not alive to help Obito attack them with the resurrected bodies of dead shinobi. However, as the cunning jerk that he was, Danzo had been skulking around to try to influence events in his favor during the war. He had used the Sharingan he had concealed behind bandages to try to influence those present long enough for his hidden root shinobi to kill them, allowing him to use the chaos to gradually seize control as the supreme ruler of the elemental continent. However, he was unaware that Naruto was aware of his hidden eye because he had seen all of Orochimaru's notes on the subject, so he had his own shinobi kill the hidden root in secret so that Danzo was unaware of it. When he used his trump card, Sasuke stabbed the man through the throat to genuinely exact revenge on the man who had sent his brother to kill his family. After Danzo's actions, the other Kages realized that Konoha would only try to eradicate them for as long as they lived, so they decided that maybe 6 major shinobi villages was too many and decided to reduce the number by 1. They attacked Konoha with their combined forces, completely unprepared because the war had just ended and they were still recovering from their wounds. Without the proper defenses in place, they had no chance against the combined might of so many people. Within hours, the village was on fire, and everyone inside was killed, with only a few taken to breed their clan bloodlines for later use. They did this because the village had become corrupt, and they wanted to ensure that it did not spread like a plague. The Alliance's combined forces watched as the village burned all around them before departing to go home and finally rest because it was finally over. Naruto was the only person still in the village, standing in the exact spot where he would later be killed on his wedding day to Hinata. He saw the destruction all around him as the flames towered, but he didn't feel a twinge of fear. Instead, he was able to smirk and then laugh with joy because he had put everything right. He killed the residents of this corrupt village before they had a chance to discover the means of redemption so that they would ascend to heaven while he suffered in hell. Now they would know his misery from the darker future. After several years, after that day, Naruto had a happy life, married all 3 women, had many children with all 3, and loved them all. He also helped to keep the peace in the elemental countries and trained them to be strong so they could survive whatever the world threw at them. Other than the various exams that took place, which were tests, there was no fighting between the villages, but eventually a new threat arrived in the form of a tyrant from a distant land on a different continent. As a result, the land was at war again, and unlike the one here, Naruto's advantage was diminished because the enemy was also skilled in magic. The war was bloody and drawn out, but in the end they had won, albeit narrowly, with Naruto killing the tyrant himself after the man had abducted, defiled, and then killed his wife Kin. As a result, they had access to a lot more than they had previously, both in terms of technology and magic itself. As he grew older and his body started to fail, Naruto called his family together for a final meeting on his deathbed, telling them all that he loved them all and that he hoped to see them all again in the afterlife. After saying goodbye, he passed away smiling. As he watched his family weep over his lifeless body, Naruto's soul floated in midair. He grinned because he was grateful to have such a loving family after being denied it the first time. Now, he just waited for the judgment that would decide whether he went up or down, and wherever he went this time, he would accept the judgment given. He found it surprising that nothing happened as he floated there because the first time he died, he had fallen right away, but this time he felt nothing happening, so he just started to float away, to await the judgment that he would one day receive for his actions.